Okay, we're going to go back in time and I'm going to tell you about 2007 at what I experienced and um, see what you think of it. It's about how my child was taken, how they did it, when they did it, and why they did it. Okay. Uh, my son, one day he was sitting there and he said, Mom, I really don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So I said, well, what do you like to do? And he said, well, I like to sing. And I said, well, make some videos online and maybe you'll get recognized. So, well, he did it. So what happened was um, my ex-husband kept threatening me, and I told him I was going to get a divorce. And he said, if you do, I'm getting custody. You're not getting custody. You will never see our son again. Well, he wasn't kidding because I haven't seen him. So one day, my son says, Mom, come here. Calls me over and he says, Dad is going to record you and he's going to do something to get you really mad. And he knows how to push your buttons. And he's going to get it on film and they're going to have cameras and get it on film. And then they're going to get you arrested. Well, I told him that's not going to work because I'm not going to get mad. And he said, well, just be careful. So I said, okay. So what happened was I was walking into my bedroom and I pulled out the suitcase because I was leaving. I was going to leave because I had had enough of this idiot. And I walked into the bedroom and I tripped over my suitcase, which was in the middle of the floor. And the loudest voice I ever heard said, leave now. And so I packed my suitcase and I threw it in the trunk and I went to the shelter because I did not feel safe. I had caught my ex-husband putting antifreeze in my coffee pot. And I also had found a bunch of life insurance policies he had on me. And he was pretending like the house was in foreclosure, which he had $2,000 in his van, and I found it. And I said, why can't I pay the mortgage with this? We're a month behind. Why can't I pay it with this? And he throws the money at me and says, here, pay it. And so that made me know that he was playing a game, but I wasn't sure what the game was. But I know now that they fake foreclosures, and the house we lived in wasn't ever ours. And I don't know whose it was, but it wasn't our house. So all the money I was sending to this mortgage company was going into a bank account for him. And he had all this money that I knew nothing about. And he was living it up, doing his drugs, having the time of his life, while he's making plans to have me arrested, which he wound up doing. He came home from work one day and he was acting strange, and he never came in the front door. He always came in the garage. Well, that was weird in itself because he didn't come in the front door. And he went straight to his bedroom and started taking a shower. Well, normally he came through the garage door and he sat on the couch, and then I had supper ready and I'd take it to him. But this day was different. He went to his bedroom where he started taking a shower, and I said, "What are you doing?" I went to his bedroom door, and he said, "Nothing." And I said, "What is going on? What are you doing?" He wouldn't answer me. So he gets all cleaned up, puts cologne on, gets in his van, goes down the street, picks up our son, and I follow him in my car because I want to know what's going on. He drives to the police station, tells the police that I tried to stab him. The police charge my car with guns drawn and tell me to get out of the car. Now, mind you, my hands are out the window, and I'm telling them, I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing. And they got their guns drawn. And they tell me to get out of the car. And so I get out of the car. And they asked me what happened. And I said, well, nothing. I said I was asking him what he was doing because he usually just came in and sat on the couch and I brought him dinner. Well, he went back and took a shower and was acting strange, like really strange. And then he picked up our son and came here. And, well, we both made police reports, and our police reports didn't match because his was fabricated and mine was the truth. He said that I tried to stab him, which was a total lie. I did not try to stab him. I was doing dishes, and I had silverware in my hand and a towel, and I did not come anywhere near him. And he made up this whole fabrication. They put me in jail it was on a Friday, so I did not get out until Monday morning, because when you go to jail on Friday, you don't get out till Monday. And there was a court hearing, and they said, what is that, mister? And they were talking to him, and it was like this video recording. I didn't go to court, it was a video. And they said, oh, he doesn't want you to come home. But they said they were releasing me on my own recognizance. And here my car was at the police station, and the police said it would be safe up there. So I get out of jail, and I have nowhere to go because they tell me I can't go back home. This was his way to kick me out of the house because he knew I was going to divorce him. So he wanted to have the upper hand. So he was trying to make me look bad so that he would get custody, and he didn't want to pay child support. Well, he wound up having to pay alimony, which was more than child support. So basically, I spent 3 days in jail. I got out and I called my older foster son, which asked me what happened, and I told him, I was falsely arrested, blah, blah, blah. So we're driving home, and we go over the dam, and all these trees are knocked over, and it's flooded down there, and it looks frightening. Like, I don't know what happened when I was in that jail, but it looked like all hell broke loose. And I said, what happened? And he said there was a bad storm, and like it flooded, and all the trees busted, and the wind and everything. I was like, oh my gosh. So while I'm in jail, all this happens, right? So I go up and get my car, and I have nowhere to go, and I have $8, and I buy a cup of coffee. Can't wait to get that coffee. and I get my car, and I have a full tank of gas and nowhere to go. So I go to the shelter where they tell me they're full and I can't come there. So I have nowhere to go. So I go to the domestic shelter and they tell me that I was charged with domestic violence and that I can't stay there because I'm a danger to the people at the domestic shelter. Are you kidding me? It's a common thing. People that accuse the innocent one of being the abuser. And that's common knowledge, right? So then they say, well, we can let you stay. So I stayed 3 months. And I had a job. And I worked at a grocery store, Cub Foods. I couldn't think what place it was, but I came back to the shelter every night at like 10:30, and then I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when they flipped the lights on. So no one there worked. I think I was one of maybe 3 people that were going to work. And with all this stress I had going on with court fines and dates and staying at the shelter with these women, and when people have been abused, they're like not always real nice. Sometimes they're kind of crappy people. So I wasn't a crappy person, but there was a lot of crappy people in there. So anyhow, he begs me to come back, which I don't want to, but I want to be with my son. So I go back and my son's gone. And there's some other kid there who's taller. And I had this height chart on the wall. And I said, where's the height chart? Because I drew it on there with pencil. And he said, I took that off. And I'm thinking, why? The doctor told me to measure his growth because he had a growth problem. The kid that was there was not my son, and he was about a foot taller. And I told my husband, that is not my son. I don't know who that is. Where is my son? And he wouldn't tell me. My son's friend even called and said, where's Dwayne? That's not Dwayne. He fell asleep in class. That's not my friend. And he told me to go in the room and close the door because he did not want his dad to hear the conversation. But he said, where is Dwayne? And I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know if something happened. I don't know if he had an asthma attack. I don't know what happened. So I find out that my son was shipped out of the country to another country and used as a pawn and trafficked. And everybody got rich but me, which I wouldn't have wanted that dirty money anyway. It's pathetic what they've done to me, and it's pathetic what they did to my child. And I am sure that I'm not the only mother that has dealt with this. I had several children's services visits from family members calling for no apparent reason because they wanted to cause me a problem, which was what they did most of my life. But I've grown and I've gotten past it, and I don't need any of them ever again. And the only thing I need now is God in my life, because nobody else really can fix the things I've been through. So, I finally got divorced in 2014. My real son came to see me, and I didn't even know it was my son. He didn't look the same. He didn't act the same. He wanted me to go to a Catholic church with him, and I told him no, that I'm not Catholic, and I don't believe in that religion. And he didn't at any point tell me he was my son, and I didn't know because I hadn't seen him in 6 years, and kids change a lot in 6 years. I didn't. I looked the same as when I was 6, but I went back and helped my ex-husband, thinking he would tell me where my son went, how he disappeared. He didn't tell me shit. I helped him because he was sick for 3 years. And I wound up just packing my stuff and leaving. I was to the point I didn't care if he lived or died because I was mentally and physically tortured by him. And I must say, I'm a survivor, but it did mess me up in a lot of ways where I will never have another relationship as long as I live. Because everything I've been through makes me who I am. And I don't know how I could ever trust another man again, because the stuff I've been through with boyfriends and spouses, no thank you. No one would be able to accept all the things that happened to me. You know, I had a guy make me a cup of coffee once. I let these people move in with me. He made me a cup of coffee, and he said, I made you some coffee. And I said, no. I dumped it out, dumped the pot out, rinsed the pot out, told him, don't ever touch my coffee pot, don't ever try to make me coffee ever again. And that's because my ex put antifreeze in the back of my coffee pot. Therefore, no one will bring me a cup of coffee ever again. Even a nice gesture, in my mind, turns into, here we go again. I can't do that to somebody. Nobody's going to be able to accept. I don't want a relationship. All I want is a relationship with my kids. I have no desire to get with another man except my kids. That's it. A relationship isn't possible. When you've been through the trauma that I have, and no, can't do it. With that, I'll close, and thanks to my big sister for fixing me up with a crazy person and laughing all the way to the bank with my money. God bless, and I sure hope no one else has had to live this. It's been a shit show.